That's a song that's being offered by Dwayne Hepner of the New Presentation, founder of WonderfulWorldwideEducators.com, and the writer of a bunch of new books of the Adventure Is series that are available at lulu.com, or if you get a hold of www.wonderfulworldwideeducators.com, you may be able to get PDFs of them. I'll read one of the books. This is new book 5 of the Adventure Is series by Dwayne the Great Writer. All told the story of a credit card company he was dealing with from the business side of what I call his creation today, the corporation. Well, the credit company was doing some funny things, and lo and behold, they went out of business. There was no coincidence, as Paul constantly warned people about the adverse effects of being contemptuous with the man with the rod of power. The new wave. The real guides always protect their own, as they will even send in the lords of karma, who are subordinate to them, to take care of any matters which are not in the best interest to all. On another occasion, I met a fellow, and his name is Drake Doldrums. He was a real estate investor, and he showed me a lot of his transactions and even the school he went to with photos. Drake was financially strapped, so I lent him some money and also brought him into one of my projects that I was working on, which was going to be in Arizona. As we got to know each other, I asked him to be part of what I was doing. So he drove out to Arizona and met with the people I had known for years. They liked him and his knowledge of real estate, so things looked good so far. Through the other people who went with him, I found out a different side to Drake. And so with this and that happening, we soon parted. Today, Drake is in prison and being charged with crimes he may or may not have committed, which are all felonies. I really did try to help him, but he is your typical know-it-all. I can go on and on with so many people and incidents, which I have encountered over the years, and with all of these people, I was upfront and sent them a copy of A Journey to Real Freedom, so they would have the opportunity to meet Rebazar Tars. But most of them didn't pay attention as they tried to steal something from me. Getting back to Sandy and Dave, as they have so screwed themselves, and I have even better positions for myself today, as the boys are constantly providing more options all the time. I am always amazed myself what shows up from the invisible side, then manifests here. In this adventure, I am pointing out how all of us work our way along for many lifetimes to finally get ourselves into the best of all positions, and not always with what our physical personal life entails, but the advantage of meeting the real guides, and finally starting one's journey to real freedom, to the real universes. The idea is to become adept and recognize universal positioning while one is still in their material body, so they can become part of the overall reality of the all is. This is where the real adventure begins. But one must be willing to take risks and discover so much more about this world and themselves. The majority of people who followed Durwood, Gerald, and many others like them have held themselves to what most of the social structure dictates, so as not to make waves, but stay agreeable to the onslaught of marketing ploy that is so creatively devised today. I am here to live my adventure and at the same time provide something wonderful in many ways. And so the idea is, what will one do? Will they just live their life and read the books and courses I have written? Or will they learn to see what is really taking place and step in and do something real? The real guides do not prod people, but stand aside to see if the people they are teaching will develop their courage to be real. Well, Dwayne, you have taken everyone into the future now. So we must go back to your youth when I was showing you your previous lifetimes, said Lou, as she smiled and fluttered her beautiful eyelashes. Okay, I guess I got carried away again, huh? I will try and maintain while we are having all this fun. Can we first go over what happened as you left your planet? I said as we giggled. Sure, and you will find what I went through very interesting. So let's switch scenes and go there now, she said as we watched the view. Ursha explained as she opened the scene up to where she was with her mermaid family as Yabel and some of the real guides had just arrived. I saw them floating from the upper skies as the view was showing the angle from above to the ocean that lay beneath them. They smoothly moved downward until they met the water, then continued on into the depths. I know the boys have fun doing their spectacular entrances wherever they go. I love it. It's all another bedtime story for me. Royth, said Shanta, someone is coming. I can feel it. We must be ready. Royth came in from the outside of their place and swam over to Shanta's side, then patiently waited. At that instant, Yabel Sakabi and several other beings from the Is arrived. Hello, Shamta and Roy. I have come to warn you about this world, which I know you have been watching and perceiving with what is taking place with the Zealotists. As you know, there is a huge rebellion which is being prepared and about to take effect in the near future. The world order of Z is very concerned, so they have made ready their arsenal of kata atomic weaponry to destroy the rebellion. But what they do not know is that, because of all the pollution in the sea, air, and land, there will be a huge chain reaction that will eliminate all life on the surface and infect the oceans to a depth of several miles. We have brought you a category of downloads for your tech systems so that you can build flying saucers, then travel to another planet in any system you want. Also, within this program, I have recommended you to go to a place known as Earth, which is in another galaxy, but with your new saucers, you will have no trouble getting there. I am preparing a new future on that planet as a base of operations for a rejuvenation and a focus for the light shaft of the Is. With the material realm and set up as it is from the real universes, the proximity is just right for a new position of real light in the future, and all of you can be a part of it. Let me show you on the view, said Yabel as he went to the computer screen, as just then Ursha and her sisters entered the room. Ursha asked her mother what was going on as they were all watching the view. As the scene appeared, it showed the Pacific Ocean and the waves along the shore breaking. Then, from the surface of the water, Ursula stuck her head up. She looked at the waves breaking, then noticed someone out in the water on a board. There, he is the one, said Yabel, as Ursula had the feeling to look very closely at the screen. This is more than 1,000 years from now, sir, said Royce, as everyone watched, and Ursula felt something within her. Mother, what is this about? Asked Ursula, as she stared at the screen. We have to leave the planet, Ursula. How long do we have to build the saucers? Yabel asked Shamta. No more than 3 months, possibly less. We are doing a lot from the other levels to offset what will surely take place here, but we can only do so much without putting everyone into bondage who is involved in the rebellion. The Zealotists do not want to use their cata-atomic devices, but they will have no choice, as there are several billion rebels with the same weapons to do equal damage. It is actually the final karmic effects from hundreds of lifetimes of war on this planet, as it is now so overly populated and corrupt with all the governments that are in place. I suggest you watch The View and study the Earth, as it is your best choice at this time. If something changes, we will contact you, said Yabel, as all of them disappeared. I could see that while I was watching this with Ursula, as she was then, Ursula was very interested in the scene she was viewing. Royce, we must download the information immediately, then inform our civilization to prepare now, said Shamta, as he put the files into the computer. Ursula went to her room with her sisters. Shesh, Lana, did you notice anything about the scene on The View, and especially about the person Yabel pointed out on the board? She asked them, but they just shrugged their shoulders as Ursula turned on The View in her room. Are you looking for a new boyfriend, Ursula? Said Lana, as the girls laughed. It would seem so, girls, but I feel there is something else here, but I don't know what right now. But maybe I can find out, she said as she went into certain files to investigate the person on the board. I will narrate this part, Dwayne. I searched all that day, or what would be considered a day, and then when I went to sleep for a brief time, I had a wonderful dream, and I was shown what to do. In the dream, I was taken high above the world I was on, as I suddenly had legs again like a humanoid person. I could feel myself flying higher and higher, and it seemed there was no end to where I was going. I knew I was moving through many levels of awareness, but I didn't know where I was at. As I kept going, I could feel someone beside me, but I couldn't see them, as they were guiding me along. Then I went through a vast cloud-like area, and as I rose above it, I saw a huge sun in the great distance. I suddenly stopped and stared for some reason, and for the longest time. It was so calm and perfect where I was at. Then, at some point, there was a figure in the distance, very far away, and I could sense that it was coming toward me. I waited for the longest time, as whoever it was finally stood in front of me. He was so beautiful and full of light. I was having all kinds of sensations about my whole being. I suddenly knew that I had known this being before. He never said anything, as he and I just stared at each other for the longest time like lovers. I knew I was being filled with very subtle impressions, but at the time I did not know what they meant. I had never felt a love like this. I was so immersed in a total surrender to this whole experience. For some reason, I really loved this being, and he, in turn, loved me so purely. I did not want to leave, ever. I was very adamant on staying, but then he faded away, and I actually began to cry as though I had lost him. I could see streams of water coming from me that went out into the light and disappeared. I was holding my heart with a great sorrow as I was going through this turmoil. I could also see that I was okay with it, as it was part of the whole plan as to why I had come in the first place. I soon stopped crying, and I was perfectly fine, and knew I would meet this being again, and that we would finally be together forever someday. Then, in an instant, I was back in my body and waking up, as my sisters were shaking me. "Ursha, are you going to sleep forever? We have to go and help everyone prepare for our departure. We have a lot to do, so get up," they said as all of us laughed. Then we swam out to where the construction of the saucers was taking place. My sisters and I always got along well together, as we were very carefree with each other. We were always like children that play at whatever we did. There were constant shifts working on the saucers, and when I had time, I would go right to The View and research everything I could on the original scene Yabel showed us. I took many different avenues into the past, and eventually discovered what was going on, as I knew I was being guided to the right source. I wanted to know more than anything who was the being I was within the upper levels. I was also having experiences with Yabel, as he was showing me who you are and where to look in the universal files. Then, one day he suggested I go back thousands of years, where I was in another galaxy altogether, and into a particular life. So I did just that, and did I discover a lot. You and I had been through many lifetimes with all sorts of people who were our lovers and mates. All of those situations always fell apart, as we were constantly separated by circumstances or someone else taking our attention from us. Then there became a stable lifetime where we met each other again and finally had a subtle recognition of each other. And we were happy, for a while that is, because that lifetime was during an invasion by the Drek aliens, who had already made a secret alignment with the governments of the world we were on hundreds of years prior to that lifetime.